You know, chums, what I love about certain aspects of history, royal history, is the things that you found out about the individual. You know, the sort of thing I mean. We always think, don't we, that, we're looking to say like the private life of Queen Elizabeth and we find out that she likes certain things that make her smile or laugh or whatever. But of course, it's the ostentatiousness of the people that went before her that really intrigued me. Now, as you know, or many people should now know, and we've made a video about this today, should I say I've made a video about this today. Well, the thing is, sadly, the Royal Train is now going to be decommissioned. And when you think about it, this is huge, huge history. And it got me thinking as to exactly, well, what really, how did it all take off? And consequently, when you think, the Queen Victoria of the time, she was the very first monarch naturally to travel by train. And what was interesting about Queen Victoria is the fact that she felt, you see, that the public should see her, but at a distance. I know the feeling. And the thing is, the window just reflected and made her look better and stuff like that. And because of the speed that she was going, they couldn't work out whether she looked old or not. Naturally a little bit vain at a certain age, as all of us are, if you can be, let's be honest. And here's where this gets really interesting for me, you see. When she first started out on the Royal Train, they were very sort of modernised, people didn't realise it was the ultimate luxury. I mean, there was even a bath on there. How would you have managed a bath on a train on those brand new lines in the Victorian era? But they had to do this because this is the monarch, right? But she didn't necessarily like using the conveniences, the facilities. And whenever they were approaching a certain station, she would opt to use those instead. Hence the reason you see a lot of things up and down the country saying Queen Victoria used these facilities, right? So if she was coming on that line, I mean, this is not bad actually when you think about it. They had to redo the entire public facilities because, she would have used them. You see, there's always a good thing out of a bad, right? But of course it was Edward VII that really took rail travel to the ultimate for him. Let me tell you. Morning, nice to see you, chums. Thank you so much for joining me today. Lovely to have your company. Do love sharing these stories with you because what I found out, I hopefully found that you find it fascinating too. Edward VII, we know, was one of the best in my opinion. He knew how to make the monarchy work for him. Cigars named after him, King Edward potatoes named after him. He made sure, a bit like his mother, that he's got his name everywhere and still remembered. We all know about his philandering ways and the fact that he had mistresses and all that sort of stuff. But he was a very clever, forward-thinking man. I told you about the time that once he'd worked out that moving picture could really enable him to look better on screen, to be seen by many more people, he really lapped it up. And as I said, the Royal Train being decommissioned is fascinating in itself, simply because Edward VII, get this, was actually one of the very first people to have moving pictures while moving. Oh yes, he managed to get his own, and we'd call it a home cinema room now, wouldn't we? Where people go off to watch box sets, binge watch, whatever you call it, in the room. Well, he had a carriage literally assigned so that they could re-show him the newsreels as they picked them up at certain stations along the way. So he could see how he looked and whether he thought he looked good, who did he meet, how did it be projected, the sort of, words at the bottom of the screen. Very, very forward thinking that when you think, because obviously to have that material, to be able to show that was only in the biograph, wasn't it, the cinema. Because he was king, he was allowed to do it. Oh yes, but he had another little cheeky aside, which was brilliant, I thought. And this was one which wasn't necessarily fully named. And it was partly a carriage for ladies' use, right? And this was what we'd now call today, right, ladies, a sort of beautification carriage. And this was that as he was travelling, say perhaps not with the Queen, certain ladies who he may have known or not known or simply just wanted to give a ride to on the Royal Train, they were allowed to beautify themselves on the Royal Train with a full beautician. You see, nothing is new, is it? When you think about it, everything's been done. And this person, people, would, do the hair and beautify them in the makeup of the day, that sort of thing, And this was because, as Edward pointed out, they'd not used to rail travel, couldn't necessarily know what to do and how to get themselves looking their best, say, for dinner or cocktail drinks early on the train. So consequently, he provided every single luxury. Not only that, he insisted, and get this, on having the very first royal heated train. So travelling up and down, there was no chills for him. It was fully heated. And as I say, when you look at the history of this and the carriages that actually King Edward VII used are at the National Railway Museum in York. Definitely worth a look. Not an ambassador, not getting paid. Just thought I'd share that with you, because with that story breaking, you look around and think, my goodness, this king knew how to make sure he had the very best of everything. Now, I don't know about you, I don't see anything wrong with that. Neil Sean in the very heart of Yorkshire.